You lost the link.
No, there it is. Found it.
Found
Boom.
the link. All right.
Boom, shakalaka.
All right. Well, all the meters are running. Everything looks good. So, welcome back for another episode, another evening with roundtable discussion with Scuba and the Ry.
Ry guy with our third partner in crime.
Oh yeah, Professor Penumbra's back again.
That's right. Let's get rolling.
All righty.
Roll it on.
So yeah, we'll start off with the usual. What you been up to? What we've been up to for the last week?
Okay.
So since you're just coming, you rejoining us from your secret lab, why don't you tell us what you've been up to?
Bubbling up some formulas in that lab, I hope.
or doing a crap ton of paperwork, because the insurance on a lab is horrid.
Oh yeah,
especially when you're a mad scientist.
Yeah, you need to have protection. State Farm can only go so far.
Wait, I can insure my layer?
You can insure everything.
Oh, okay. Well,
you can insure pizza now. So, if you can insure pizza, you can insure everything.
That Domino's thing.
I think
my goodness.
Alright, so what you been up to?
On the serious side, like definitely a lot of paperwork. That I really do. That's my job, But also issues with family, mom, cancer.
How's she doing, by the way?
She's doing well.
That is good to hear.
Yeah, there was a minor complication, but it's something that they're just going to keep an eye on. It's nothing
threatening or anything like that?
Nothing like that. No.
Okay.
Actually, they think this is a good thing. I don't know the details. All that I know is that it's draining some negative stuff, but it has the potential of getting infected. But they're just going to keep an eye on it. It should go away in a couple weeks. So, but otherwise, all is well. Recovering is going just fine, and that's where we're at right now on that.
Okay. Anything else game wise?
I've been playing God of War, the newest one.
How you like it?
I am enjoying it thoroughly. I have kind of gotten to this one snag. There's a point where you can get like some really awesome armor, like some legendary armor and all like that, but it involves grinding, which is something. Does
it involve the Valkyrie?
Not the Valkyrie. It involves one of the planes that you can go to, Niflheim, and
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's that arena deal.
Oh no! That's
the
workshop.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, grinding to get all those missed echoes and stuff, and it's like, my goodness, the rest of the game has been like just, and you keep moving, and that's what I really liked up until this point, and it's like, I'm a completionist, so I'm going to go through all the grinding, but
that game, it can heavily distract
that
you.
RPG element they added for that, where you can craft weapons and armor and whatnot, seemed like a really interesting dynamic, but it's definitely a pivot from the way the God of War games have been.
For the most part, yeah, because I never played the original, but I played this one on PS4, and what I've come to appreciate is how they managed to combine the action with the RPG while having very strong world building. So it's like an amalgamation of three things.
If anything, that's one of the things I love the most about the whole God of War franchise, is the way they utilize all of that mythology and mythos and for the world. I love it.
And hopefully the professor can back me on this. In this game, you can get heavily distracted with side missions.
Oh, that's pretty much all that I do. It's like, ooh, shiny, and I'm over here and then over there, and it's like, the quest marker for the story is over here. Yeah, I'll come back to that once I know I've cleared everything else.
Anybody else getting a flashback to those Skyrim memes?
I see it's... Let's go over there. Oh wait, here's a whole quest line.
No, it was like this Penny Arcade style art, where it's like the priest is like, we have to stop Alden from destroying the world, and the guy's like, nah, I'm good. And when he's early level, and then again when he's got like the Didac armor on and all that, it's like, Alden still needs to be defeated. Are you ever gonna finish the main quest? Nah, I'm good.
Oh yeah, I put in 100+ hours in Skyrim, and I've never finished a game.
Yeah.
Because I get so distracted in a game. Like, I remember one time I was just walking across the bridge, and some assassin tried to kill me, and then left a note, which led down a whole different path, which led me to a magic school, which led me to becoming the head of the magic school, which led me blah blah blah. You get the story.
There's so many paths on that.
All right. I will want to say one thing. I've had a lot of memorable moments in that game.
Oh, yeah. Well, we had our D&D game last week, right?
Oh yes.
So what was your perspective on that?
I like to hear another person's perspective. Shoot them dice.
Yeah. From the DM's perspective, I should say it's going pretty well. Just I think a lot of the players are starting to forget the whole reason why you guys are going around doing the things you're doing. And I tried to bring that up. I'm like, has anybody been taking notes? Does anybody remember what the original idea was? And it's like, go here and kill people? It's like, no, it's deeper than that. There's something else that you guys are supposed to be looking for, and it's like, that's my only worry, is that the adventure could just completely derail if you guys just completely forget, the main MacGuffin that you guys are supposed to be going after. So we'll see how that turns out. It won't affect anything immediately, but the derailing should happen within the next 2 to 3 game sessions at the pace we're going. And but if we derail completely, you guys can end up on a boat sailing the high seas. I've got it
right over here.
So okay, I have a question. Just a learning question. So you have your main line. And
yes.
then people, of course, will derail, go left and right. So there are. I mean, outside of consequences, obviously, there are ways to counter that leads somewhere else. There's like ways too.
Oh,
okay.
There definitely are. It's with this, I prefer to run straight from the book.
Okay.
So it's like I'm very much this leads to this, and it the group that we game with is a bit scatterbrained, and they tend to just go off on random directions. This time around, I've actually planned out, like I have the Salt Marsh book that I'm going to have that set up. If you guys derail too far, I have other adventures that I have off to the side in case you guys end up going away from the Sword Coast. So I have things for you guys to do should you guys just drop this whole quest, and say forget about it. We don't even know what we were doing in the first place. So right now you guys are going through a particular estate murdering, and we'll see what happens. Yeah.
I'm intrigued.
That's sometimes the beauty of it, because you remember the old Choose Your Own Adventure books from back in the day?
I remember.
Where it's like, get to the end of the page, hey, go to this page or go to that page. That's kind of how this goes.
Yeah.
If we get to the point where the group really kind of fails to get through the mansion, because I know since I manage my character through D&D Beyond, I actually go to the notes section and type out little shorthand of where we are, what the immediate thing is. So I know we're at this manor to find a Nimblewright, which in D&D is like a mechanical person, kind of like Cicero looking. Like, this guy. I see this. I saw this picture when I looked it up, and I'm thinking, why am I thinking Italian Three Musketeers style with the way the face looks like it's got the goat?
Yep.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, so we're supposed to be trying to find this one rogue Nimblewright, and we go to this mansion, and it's like there's a fight breaking out, and of course, just dive right in, and now it's like the cliffhanger is, wait a minute, both sides have the same faction tattoo. What's going on? So that's one of those things that's like curious, but I definitely, from past experiences with the same group, we can go off the rails pretty quick. So trying to find a way back on the rails.
Yeah, I would guess when I just playing in these games general, there could be some side distractions.
Now, as a courtesy, I have not read the particular source book that this is on, even though I have access to it.
Yeah.
But if from what I do know of it, there's multiple storylines depending on the season. So if we screw around too much, we could just roll into a different season, possibly. Or maybe we could talk about it, try to come up with some ideas, because I know the business venture thing is getting a little.
Well, the thing is, you guys are having fun with it. I'm having fun with it. So, that's why I've actually decided to take the time to come up with alternatives. Should you guys do
and that's a nice evolution for you, because I know some of the stuff we've really driven you mad.
Well, it's like, we're just going to do this.
Why are
and
you doing this to me?
And it's even in the book where, I mean, like the previous adventure that I ran, the book had all these alternatives for them to do. They didn't go in any of those directions. They were like, no, we're going to go this way. And it's like, we're going to try to kill these people. And I'm like, you're not supposed to try to kill those people. And finally, it got to the point where there was no way for them to finish the adventure.
Yeah.
They backed themselves into a corner, and they were so focused on,
we got lost in the minutia of other things. We'll just leave it at that.
Sounds like a lot of shiny objects around.
Well, it turns out I'm mixing up two groups, because I was running the same adventure with two different groups.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It was the one group that had the shawarma cart. Shawarma cart. They were so focused on that shawarma cart. This group with Scuba, his group ended up just being wiped out. Yeah,
I would assume, scattering and just kind of like white flags.
We're in the town, and of course the demon prince Demigorgon comes up, and we're all thinking of backing away when one of our characters is like, "Hey, I'm going to take a shot at him, and then I'm going to run."
Yeah,
and it's like
he's like, I gotta do this because I saw it in Stranger Things. I throw a fireball at Demigorgon, and it's like, the rules don't work the same between that edition that they were playing in Stranger Things and 5th edition. I'm like, okay, you threw a fireball at Demigorgon. Now Demigorgon's all over you, and you're dead. And of course, Scuba and one of our other friends, they decide to go running back in to help him, and they die in one turn. And it's
I would have dropped the deuces and ran. So.
I mean,
that's what they were supposed to do.
Yeah.
Best thing for I guess to tie it over for a movie is Godzilla King of Monsters. That scene where 11 is in the baseball park.
Yeah.
And what is it?
King Ghidorah.
King Ghidorah does that classic eye through the window. So that's the kind of proportions we're talking about.
Yes.
It's like, I'm going to hit... Oh,
let me take my BB gun and hit the 60-foot tall monster. Maybe I'll get it down.
Maybe I'll get that lucky shot.
Yeah. I hit it right in the heart,
It was one of those things. It's a town full of fish people. They're all staring at Demigorgon. Demigorgon's walking towards the shore. Just sees the whole town, lots of people. The characters could have ran away so easily, and the one guy goes, I throw a fireball at it. And I'm like, you do what?
Shoot
and
scoop.
He's like, I throw a fireball.
Who's the special one.
What about you, Ry? What you been up to the last week?
Well, I had another 3-day weekend because I took off Monday. So
Slacker.
That's a plus. Yeah, I'm a slacker, but there's reasons why. So Friday did my usual Saw movie. And then Saturday we celebrated my girlfriend's mom, father, and brother's birthday. So they had one big birthday extravaganza.
Are they like really close together, or are we talking like this?
They're all their birthdays are in September. So it's so he turned 21. Her dad turned 50, and then her mom turned 52.
That's right. She was working on a video last week.
Yes.
For that, because he's active duty military, or just came
he is
to,
in the Air Force. He came to visit for a week, and he'll go back. He's stationed out in Nevada.
Nevada's not bad.
Well, yeah. So being 21, drinky. So we had a few drinks. I had a few drinks, but not anything crazy. Just enough to wet my whistle. Yep. So he's testing the water since it's officially he can drink. And then on Sunday, the reason I took off Monday is because I went to a concert on Sunday.
That's right. You went to, what was it, Blake? No.
Luke Bryan.
Luke Bryan.
So
I knew there was a B in there.
yeah,
somewhere.
Luke Bryan came into town, and I'm not the biggest country fan like I used to be when I was growing up. So I kind of just stay. I'm mostly alternative indie rock, most of that. But there are still a few country artists that make me gravitate over there, and Luke Bryan's one of them. Mm-hmm. So this time around, he came into town. I was like, I picked his concert to go to this year. I always rotate every year a couple concerts, so I try to see somebody different every year. So it was Luke Bryan. It took my girlfriend, who's a big fan of Luke Bryan, and then her brother came with us, and it was his first concert. So, he got the experience, the loud noises, the singings, the crazy drunks. Yeah.
Lawn seats?
Nope. 100 level. I never get lawn. Never get lawn.
Smart person.
So, right there up front staring at, a very nice, handsome man. So, he's doing his thing up there on stage and had a good time,
That's good.
That's why Monday was off, because it was called recovery.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that's fair. You don't want to be rolling into the training room.
And even today at work, people could tell I was still recovering. Because I was kind of I'm all, usually tired when I work anyway, but there was an extra tiredness still trying to catch up. My mind was still trying to catch up. So, other than that, just the usual training stuff at work. It's always some kind of training.
Yeah, so, well, keeps it busy. Keeps
what I do.
Keeps it busy.
That's what my job is.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've been to a concert. I need to find something and, find the band that I like.
There is one of my favorite bands is playing at Waterside this week, but I'm going to pass on it because my brother can't go. I didn't take off the day after. I'm like, you know what? I am not going to die on the next day at work. So I was like, you know what? I've seen it's Taking Back Sunday.
Okay.
So I'm passing because I've already seen them a lot. I've seen them like 5 or 6 times. So it's like, okay, I can miss them one time.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Well, then we're talking Waterside on a Sunday?
Yeah, the last time I did go saw them was at Waterside. When Waterside first opened, they were one of the first concerts.
Oh, okay.
Because Weezer played for free when Waterside opened, and then it was Taking Back Sunday was the next show there, and then I went to that. So it was pretty cool because it was outdoors. You could go in and out between the little venue and inside Waterside getting drinks, so it was pretty fun.
Yeah, I like Waterside the way the layout is.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I'll ever go over there when it's really crowded because I'm not big for crowds.
Yeah, but if you want to try some food, we can go down there.
Yeah, the food is definitely good out there.
Oh, yeah.
So
We need to do some venture.
Well, I guess for me it's kind of the usual weekend activities. Another day on the airsoft field. It wasn't bad. I actually kind of hit a personal milestone.
Okay.
Because, we've been talking and it's like, I'm a big guy and I want to be a small guy again. And I've had problems playing airsoft because my mobility is really bad.
Okay. Just
because I'm so out of shape and overweight.
Yeah.
Well, we did a game on Sunday. We did a game on Saturday. We had 2 teams. We had the attacking team and the defending team. The defending team had to protect an alien on the stretcher, which we call Larry. And
interesting name of
Larry,
choice.
Larry's a little rough. He's missing a couple arms and a leg or 2. Yeah. And so I had to hide. So on one end of the field where he was hidden, and the defenders had to protect him, but they couldn't move him.
Yeah.
The attackers had to come and get him, take him across the field to the town, and put him at the 3rd floor of the tower.
Okay.
So I opted to stay with Larry to make sure, kept track of where Larry was.
Okay.
Well, when the attacking team came and got Larry, they ran from across a big open field that was probably about 200 yards, 300 yards.
Okay.
I was actually able to jog from tree line to tree line without feeling like I was going to die as soon as I stopped. And then we hung out there for a few minutes and then went another 200-300 yards to the pond. And then from there, another 200 yards into the tower. And I was able to jog the entire time. Now, for me, I haven't been running, jogging, any of that since before I broke my foot. back years and years ago. So I haven't really been running, but this was something I could actually, even with the vest on and all that weight, I was able to actually keep pace and jog. So for me, that's a good thing because I can actually move.
Yeah, it's a plus if you can definitely jog without.
Yeah, I didn't. And cardiovascularly, I wasn't feeling like I was doubling over. I didn't feel like my heart was coming out of my throat because when you work out really hard, you start feeling your pulse in your carotid.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I felt that was good. And then of course Sunday we had our usual Agents of Short.
Agents of Short. I love the name. I love that name.
Agents of Short, which I thought was pretty good. We actually had Saturday night was Teens on Parade.
Okay.
Which we talked about last week.
Yeah. Story ideas.
That went fairly well. I ended up getting a migraine, and I kept playing until I got to the point I was nauseous.
Yeah.
And that's where, all right, giant sandstorm hits. Airship's going down. We'll pick up from there. Because I wasn't feeling that great.
Okay.
But I realized that I'm going to make some changes to my game schedule. And that is because Saturday night, I had 8 players at the table.
Is that a lot? That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Okay. That's another education question.
Yeah.
That's pushing
an average intimate setting. Like even if you watch Stranger Things, there's only the 4 of them who play. 1 DM and then the other 3.
I remember it being small.
Yeah.
Because of the Stranger Things.
D&D Beyond released their alpha for their encounter builder.
Okay.
And the defaults are typically 5 players.
Yes. Previous editions were very focused on the average size was 4.
Okay.
For 5th edition, they've bumped it up to 5 as the average size. The thing is, they give you tools for increasing or decreasing the difficulty for more or less players.
Yeah.
But once you start getting to 7 to 8 players, that I've actually played with 9 players one time, and then several of those individuals had only just joined us for that one game session, and they were like,
that's another key that's another key point when you look at a gaming group setup.
Okay.
Because this plays into the Agents of Short game. Is Teens on Parade was 8 players. One of them had never played before. She was a friend of one of the kids, and she was invited over to check it out. Because this is a big thing, I guess, in their social circle. After that game, I went and I said, look, we're going to change this up. We're going to trim it down. Because not everybody looked like they really wanted to play. And I also didn't want them to think that if they came over to hang out, they had to play. So I said, here's how we're going to do this. 5 players at the table. That's it. All of them can come and hang out, but I'm only going to play the game with 5. And that allowed them to rotate out if they want.
Yeah.
And as a caveat, I think I'm going to look at a couple other Saturday nights from, say, 7 to 10, where I'll have 5 seats at the table and I'll run a game. Whether it be a one shot that happens to be in this in this world, but allows, because I know you've expressed an interest in playing. I think maybe your girlfriend wants to play too. A couple of people I know at the airsoft field want to play.
Yeah, I would think she would want to try. She's never played a D&D game before, so she'll probably pair with me so she can learn along.
I don't know. I know you don't get to play D&D very often. You've been DMing a lot.
No, I know. It's crazy because I have our Sunday group where I DM. There's the once a month, possibly twice a month now that people's schedules are starting to open up a little bit.
You're talking about Saturday Go-Go?
Yeah, the Saturday Go-Go group, which is our Warhammer 40,000 RPG group.
Okay.
And then I was a part of a Star Trek RPG group.
The Hampton trip.
Yeah, the Hampton group. Yeah, but that kind of fell apart for reasons. But it might be coming back. I don't know. I'm not the DM for that. I leave that up to the guy who's organizing it. But one of our friends, Comstock, he has expressed interest in wanting to do the Lord of the Rings RPG. It's 5th edition, but it's Lord of the Rings themed. and
that would pique my interest. There's so much that can go on,
and that's one of the beautiful things about 5th edition is as long as you keep the core mechanic fairly true, loyal to the core mechanic, you can use any genre.
Well, yes, unless you actually have the specific books for a specific setting.
This is true, but not everybody has a wing in their laboratory of just gaming books.
Make sure it's insured.
Yeah, no, seriously.
Make sure it's insured.
I can run one of about 7 different RPGs because I have books for them, and I have the first 3 of the Lord of the Rings RPG books. They've had a series of books called The One Ring, I think it was.
Oh, okay.
And it was based off of, I want to say either 3rd or 4th edition. What I have is they took those exact books and adjusted them for 5th edition. And that's all that I've collected is just the 5th ed ones. So, if you want like the whole range of books, they have it for a previous edition, but they're slowly putting out like one book every so often that they've adjusted to the 5th ed, which is the Adventures in Middle Earth. And like I said, I have the first 3 books. There's only like 7 of them out so far.
But still, it's a nice thing. But my thing is I'm trying to, since I seem to have the clubhouse that we all can hang out and game and podcast and all these other things, set it up to where, okay, Saturday nights, couple at most, maybe the 3 Saturdays a month, where it's like from 7 to 10, we do a game. And there are five seats at the table, and open it up for anybody who wanted to participate. Kind of a one-shot deal. If some people come back on a regular, cool, because I know people who want to play, but I don't have an opening in a regular group.
Which is fine,
per se.
A whole other game down the road.
But so there was that. But a couple of the teens from Teens on Parade actually want to play with the adults that play in my other games.
Yeah,
the one where I'm a player and the one where I DM a bunch of adults. As such, one of those kids hung out Sunday long enough to see Agents of Short. And he was very well behaved as an observer, which is great. Really praise him. It was great because I was kind of sketchy about him because normally he's one of the more hyper ones. Yeah. But he was actually very quiet, very respectful. Had a couple of really good singers. He did. But he said he was impressed on how the group that's Agents of Short keeps the story going, and we kind of slide in and out of the role play very easily, and we're all kind of paying attention. And it's like his group, it's like, no, that doesn't happen. But I think, and that is just that emphasis. If you run a game with 9 players and those 9 players know how to play, other than just the mechanic of trying to keep everybody engaged, the story can still flow. Where if you have, like in my case, I have 8 players that are very varying level of novice knowledge on how to play the game, it gets a little rough. Movie reviews, because that's one of our primary things we gotta use to pay the bills, so to speak.
Yeah, you gotta keep the lights running.
Yeah, or the fan. So, movie review. What'd you check out?
Well, went back to the theaters this weekend because eventually I have to roll back in, but September they start to kick in some decent movies before Oscar season and the last hurrah of the blockbusters. So when the movie that kicks off the rest of the year is a sequel to a famed Stephen King title, It. So they did release it a couple years ago, the first part.
Which was a good movie.
Very good movie. So in anticipation, everybody was looking forward to part 2. So that's what I watched this weekend, was It, Chapter 2.
Ooh. And I think this is like the 3rd iteration they've done of it, because there was the original It with
Tim
Curry. That's right.
Yeah, the TV series back in the 90s.
No, there wasn't. I thought there was an actual film.
No, it was a TV series.
It was a TV series?
It was a mini-series that was relatively like 2 films length. Yeah, but
did they cover both sides, or was it just all the kids for the whole thing?
I vaguely remember it, but I believe they covered the full book. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I was told that it covered both, most, if not the full book.
Yeah. I don't know if it covered the adult portion.
I didn't watch it. It did have the adult portion, but from what I understand is that they left a lot out with the miniseries because they were trying to cram it into 4 episodes.
Yeah. Oh, so, okay.
Or 3 or 4 episodes, something like that.
All right, so this is actually the second time they've attempted the franchise. I thought it was the third time. My bad.
So we have the TV version and we have the film version.
All right.
I need to go through and watch the TV version because I like Tim Curry. He's an awesome actor.
Oh yeah, Tim Curry is a god.
Such a wide range. I mean, from a crazy clown to a transvestite from Transylvania, just craziness.
Yeah, you can play one or the other. You are prime for something good.
Yes. Okay, so kind of set the stage. The first film. Well, how was the first film?
The first film, I gave it a 4 out of 5. It was a great film when I saw it, and it focused, like you said, on the kids. So the group of kids known as the losers, and they had to tackle, face off against Pennywise the Clown. So at the end of the first film, they defeat him, quote unquote, but they knew he wasn't completely gone. So they made a pact to come back in 27 years to actually finally kill off this menacing clown.
Okay. You saw the first one too?
I saw the first one, yes.
What did you think of it?
I enjoyed it immensely. I knew bits and pieces from what I've been told, and I've seen just like small, very infinitesimal pieces of the TV series. So I had at least the basic gist going into it, but having actually sat down and watched the first film, it was like, okay. A lot more makes sense, and I felt all of the acting was amazing in that film. And I'm always down for a good horror thriller type movie. Yeah. So,
and what made the first one great is what I've praised the horror genre in the last few years. They've taken genres and melded it in together. So instead of just being the cookie cutter, chopping somebody's head or typical scare tactics, they combined it with either drama or comedy, or in the case of It, coming of age story with the whole horror elements around it. So that's what made it a very great, enjoyable film.
Okay.
It made you care about the characters.
I just wanted to get our context from the first film, because inevitably people are going to look at this as, hey, this is the second part. Can they meet or exceed the bar that was set with the first one?
Well, I'm going to lead right into It Chapter 2. So like I said, the first film, they made a pact to come back in 27 years to take out this clown. So 27 years have passed, and most of the kids have moved away. So the adults, they have kind of forgotten what happened except for one of them. So one of them that still lives in the town, Pennywise, is back. So he calls everybody back to bring them back because they have one mission, to take out this clown. So that's pretty much what the film's focus is on, is that the losers, adult version, are back in Derry to take out Pennywise the Clown.
Okay.
So that's pretty much the basis and the through line for this film. And the one thing I can say about it is that it doesn't do as great of a job as the first, but I'm going to leave that aside because I never compare a film, regardless if it's in the same series with another or with a different genre. I compare the film within the encapsulation of what it is. So what I take from this film, it does two things that keeps a very through line in. One, it plays around with Pennywise with the clown horror scenarios, and it does a lot of childhood flashbacks for the losers. So pretty much every scene or every situation plays with those two elements to keep the story going from point A to point B, from beginning, middle to end.
Okay.
So outside of that, it really doesn't do much in the way of character development or plot development, it just kind of turns into the typical horror House of Horror tropes. So you have Pennywise doing a lot of crazy stuff, killing off kids, terrorizing the group of losers. So it pretty much becomes a repetition of Pennywise comes and does this, scares them, they get away. Comes and it scares them, does this, and they get away. So there's a lot of back and forth with the horror tactics that he does. But that doesn't mean it's a bad thing.
Okay.
It's just very typical.
It's one of those things where they. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They pretty much assumed. We got through all the character development in the first one.
I was thinking the same thing because that's kind of what it sounds like.
So it bases it instead of actually where the first film, it had its point. It's a coming of age story. With this thing, the kids become, they lose their innocence against the clown. So now they were these kids, and now they're grown up because of this situation. Putting that aside, this film picks up with the adults, and you would think that they would create a scenario where the adults would, in their own way, come to terms with who they are because they forgot about Pennywise, they forgot about their friends, they forgot about the situation. So they do touch on some character interactions because the actors and actresses that play in the role, like Jessica Chastain, Bill Hader, what's his name?
McAvoy.
James McAvoy. All of them do a great job playing the roles of the kids in adult form. So the actors and actresses themselves do a great job, but it's just the story is just lacking, and I think it's because of the runtime, because this film is 3 hours long. So a lot of the times you do not feel the time, but because of the length, they had to stretch a lot of stuff. So there's a lot of fillers in this film where it felt like they could have cut out a lot of stuff and just focused on the characters coming to terms with the fear that they had and overcoming it, but while also taking out this creature.
So if they left it to simmer a little bit more to cook down, you didn't need 3 hours. For
instead of doing repeating scenarios of exposition, if they actually focused on a methodical pace of the characters and characterizations, it would have made a lot of the stuff great. Because a lot of the kills just become mind-numbing because you can see it coming. Whereas in the first one, he does some crazy stuff. I'm not going to go over. He does some really crazy stuff in the second film. It's like if you really want to see Pennywise do some crazy stuff, he does some crazy stuff. So there are parts where it catches you off guard, and he does some really eerie, like creepy stuff. So it's still prime with that, but there's a lot of scenarios where you can tell something is coming, and if you're very self-aware with House of Horror tropes, you know exactly. Oh, this empty space. He's going to creep over here. This sounds means something's coming around the corner. The very vague dialogue means there's something ominous brewing, etc., etc.
I walked into a room. There's a bunch of loot and power-ups, and the music changes. Next room's a boss room. I guarantee it.
Even when the bulk of the film drags, the atmosphere and Pennywise himself still keeps the film enjoyable. So even though you feel the length, you never are losing enjoyment because you're still enjoying it, just not as much as you thought you could be.
All right. So final rating.
Final rating. Once you get to the end, if you read the book or seen the TV series, you know how it ends. But they do change up a little bit of stuff. But it does wrap up with them doing certain things that you expect. But overall, I think it was a fun experience. I do think it's worth seeing in theaters because of a lot of the setups and situations with Pennywise. You can only get that full experience in the theater. So even when the film drags and you do feel it, you never feel like you want to leave. You're just kind of like, oh, this is very traditional horror, but you still want to see. So I gave it a 3.5 at matinee. So it's still enjoyable, still positive, just not as powerful as
the first one.
That's the first one.
Okay. What are your thoughts?
Oh no, I'm probably going to see it. I don't know if I'll go and see it in the theater or not. I don't know that it. I can't really sit for 3 hours. It was one thing doing Avengers. I was like that was something that I swore I was going to do and it was an important movie for me to see.
Yeah, you bring up Avengers, and that was a very good comparison to bring, because that is a 3+ hour movie. Yeah. But the difference I can say between that and Pennywise is that you did not feel the time, and in every part of that 3 hours in Avengers Endgame was important. Yes. Like everything is important, and the 1-2 thing is that you care more about the characters in Avengers than you do in this part 2. Yeah. To an extent, if you put those two, because they pretty much, when you see them, when you watch chapter 2, you're going to see the outline mimics kind of the same kind of general outline that Endgame has. Not like time travel or comic book, but like the general outline. They go do things, and then they come back together to take out the ultimate evil kind of drill.
Okay, but it's not as you can tell time. You can tell time a little bit better than
the plot is more thin.
Okay,
and it kind of plays against each other. Like the time is the reason why the plot's so thin, because they got to fill in other stuff. And even when they fill in other stuff with traditional horror things, you still enjoy it, because it's still Pennywise going crazy. So
traditional horror things like having the group walk off and you take a flashlight and you go looking down a dark alley.
Yeah, what's the worst that can happen?
I thought about that, as you were explaining. You see it coming and all like that.
Yeah, it's still enjoyable.
We have the professor back. We know he is our resident comic book expert, so we're gonna pick his brain on some comic books. I know a few things.
What I know is nothing compared to what the professor knows.
No. He's got the collection. That's a whole nother wing of his lab. Yeah. Is nothing but comics.
Hopefully it's insured. I hope this is insured.
It better be. I mean, especially those urns of the great comic book artists.
Oh, yeah. It's like, what is he doing here? Dun, 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 dun.
And of course, I have to throw in, what evil lurks within the heart of the comic book industry? Oh, wait, I was supposed to answer that. Anyway, moving on.
All right.
So what do we got on the rewind scale?
Probably the first thing, because these are a couple of comic book stories that I know a little bit about. I know you gave one of our friends a couple of the books you got, and that's the Total Carnage storyline, because I know you're a symbiote fan, and the House of X.
Okay. Right now they're doing the Absolute Carnage.
Oh, that's it.
Absolute Carnage, yes. I have not started reading that yet. I am powering through War of the Realms.
Okay.
Which is a recent massive crossover throughout the Thor books, and it hit most of the rest of the Marvel Universe.
Okay.
X-Men, Daredevil, Spider-Man. Spider-Man is leading, at one point, like a group of Asgardian heroes and stuff like that.
That just sounds awesome.
It does,
League
actually.
of the Realms, yes. And, like, different heroes are forming different groups to tackle different issues. Venom's involved. Everybody I could think of, except for my main man, Moonknight, got involved in this.
So what's the main threat for this crossover?
For War of the Realms, it's Malekith. If you all remember the movie Thor: The Dark World, he was the leader of the Dark Elves.
Yes.
He gathers this alliance of powerful entities from some of the other realms. Mm-hmm. There are 10 realms in the comic books because they added Heaven as the 10th realm. He's gathered this alliance, and they've attacked Midgar, New York City. So
why is it always the Big Apple? Why?
Because it's a big apple.
Hanging from the world tree.
Pun returns.
So Malekith and this alliance have gone from New York to conquering most of the globe, and they've split up the 7 continents as the new 7 realms, led by different members of this alliance. So the Avengers are, not just the Avengers, but all these other heroes are kind of on the defensive. I've gotten through issue 2, and whatever tie-ins happened between 1 and 2, they just killed off a whole bunch of Valkyrie. They even killed off the Odin's daughter, Brynhildr, the leader of the Valkyrie. Spoiler, I apologize for those who haven't read it yet. It's been about like 6-7 months at this point, but whatever. But it's like, my gosh, that was brutal, and there's going to be other casualties and all like that. So I'm trying to get through that because it ties into my Venom issues. Venom being one of the major books that I collect. So
Yes.
Venom goes through that, and then there's a couple of issues, and then Venom goes into absolute carnage. So
Okay.
that's why I'm...
Okay, yes, you haven't gotten there yet. Okay.
Right.
Well, we'll put a pin on absolute carnage till it comes back up, because I actually caught a little bit through Variant Comics, their weekly show. They mentioned a little bit on the first one. I figured since you and I are both fans of symbiotes and all things symbiote, this one should be fairly interesting.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm trying to plow through War of the Realms, because it's like, you're interested in War of the Realms, but yeah, no, I want to get to absolute carnage.
Yeah. All right. So, what about House of X?
House of X.
I hear that one. I'm hearing that one is really good because the guy
Jonathan
Hickman doing this is basically turning the entire X-Men world on its head.
He is.
With this.
Hickman has done 2 other multi-year stories for Marvel in the past. He did a run with Fantastic Four. I wasn't a Fantastic Four fan. I didn't know this was going on.
Okay.
I was told about it after the fact. I was really into Avengers and all like that. Hickman's run on Avengers. He did Avengers, New Avengers, and eventually Avengers World. He ran it through an event called Infinity, and then sometime later, Secret Wars. Mind-blowingly awesome. Everything that he did with that entire arc. It ran like almost about 3 years-ish. I just... It was some of the best world-building, massive-scale comic book storytelling I've seen in a long time. Yeah. And now he's doing that same treatment with X-Men. At the same time, I'm also picking up, there's a series of like 4 trade paperbacks called The Complete Jonathan Hickman Fantastic Four that I picked up the first volume. I'm going to be tearing through that. I know, because I love his writing. Right now, House of X and Powers of X are the 2 series running parallel. It's one story told in 2 separate 6-issue minis. Yeah. It's been one crazy plot twist after another. They just put out House of X number 4. They're at Powers of X 3. Tomorrow, I think it's the next Powers that comes out. And I might just have to go straight to the comic shop and pick it up. I don't want to wait. Every issue has just blown away expectations. The biggest one so far has to be House of X number 2. They completely change a character. For those of you who know X-Men in greater detail than just, a passing knowledge, they did something really awesome with Moira McTaggart. She was one of Xavier's love interests back in the day. The changes that they made to her character, Hickman made to her character, starting with that book, House of X number 2, I reread it because, like, right then and there, because it was just, that was probably the biggest shock, and it was awesome. Normally, I'm not big on major changes to characters. I mean, I like character development, but if you're going in one direction and then just like do a complete 180 and do something out of the blue that makes no sense, and it's like, oh, we're just changing something to change it, I'm gonna be like, that's just poor writing.
Yeah.
What they did to Moira, I'm all in. I just was like, holy crap.
Now, for context, for me, I remember the 90s X-Men cartoon.
She was in there, yep.
Yes, and she was a scientist who studied mutations in Scotland or Ireland.
She's Scottish. Yes.
Scottish. So that's why I'm familiar with the character. So, and she was a supporting character basically.
Yeah,
in the
show.
So this is a nice callback to that character, and those, if anybody is familiar with the '90s cartoon, but not dive too much into the comics, this would definitely be there because you see characters you can at least have a passing knowledge of.
Yes, and another thing with that is the fact that they killed off this character, Moira. They killed her off back in the late '90s, in the comic books. I'm surprised they brought her back because Marvel, usually when it comes to like B or C characters like that, if they kill them off, they tend to just be like, whatever, or somebody will take up their legacy. I'm surprised Marvel hasn't done like the daughter of Moira who's shown up and is the
this one they brought they brought her back.
Not exactly. That's part of the twist of the story. It's more going into her history right now.
Okay.
And they've changed a lot of things that that's pertinent to causing it to giving the story a way to move forward.
Okay.
So they're tampering with the past to give us this new path forward.
So is this kind of a newer generation of Days of Future Past?
No, it's because the comic books are taking place in the present, so it's more just it's not, there's no time travel involved.
Okay.
So far. Well, I can't even say that because there kind of sort of is.
There's always time travel involved at some point in stories, especially with the X-Men.
Yes.
I mean,
all that I have to say is just read it. It is a great jumping on point. The previous story, I wish I could remember the guy's name. He did an okay job, but he just started randomly killing off characters. It seems like Hickman's kind of ignoring what he did and is doing his own thing.
This is on Earth
reboot
246 or something like that.
And this House of X and Powers of X, they just put out the previews for what comes after those. They're starting 6 X-Men titles, 2 of which Hickman's writing, X-Men and New Mutants. They're doing a few others like the Marauders, which is about Kitty Pryde and her team, which they're going to be, pirates apparently, from what the preview looks like.
Interesting.
Interesting
Angels. Take on the character.
Yeah.
Well, the X-Men franchise as a whole has been really kind of cumbersome from a writing perspective because it has such a rich cast of characters. So that's you're trying to balance all of these characters within that book, which is why when Stan Lee and Jack Kirby first did it, and when it was asked that they move on to something else, they were asked to dump some of their workload. That was one of the first ones they dropped because so many characters to try and keep track of.
Yeah, that's the one.
And we're talking. This is the era where the original X-Men. There was like 7 of them.
Yeah. Now there's plenty of them, but
now there's hundreds.
Yeah, enough to fill out 6 books, and I still haven't seen Nightcrawler in any of the promotions for those 6 books. So
he might or might not show up, but he's a big character in X-Men.
Oh yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, and he's been playing a big part in this House and Powers story. So I can't see them not using him ever. So we'll see what happens. But I'm excited for the whole line.
Anything else in the comic book area? I know we talked Marvel. Is there anything interesting on the DC side you've been following?
There's actually several different things that I want to mention.
Okay.
On the Marvel side, they're going to be doing some one-shots for Halloween this year. The one that that was pointed out to me today is that they're doing a Norman Osborn Red Goblin one-shot where he has the Carnage symbiote.
Oh God,
that's going to be an interesting one shot.
That was a story arc from about a year and a half ago, for I want to say it was Amazing Spider-Man number 800, was it? I think. Yes, and so they had Norman get his hands on the Carnage symbiote, and the ending to that was pretty cool because it involves Norman just being like, you know what? I don't need a symbiote to kill you, Spider-Man, and he's like tearing it off. Yeah, that was an amazing scene. They're doing another Red Goblin one-shot for Halloween. There's supposed to be several more that they're going to be announcing. DC, because they just recently did their Dark Knight's Metal stuff over the last few years, they're doing a series, a new set of like Elseworld story called Tales from the Dark Multiverse. And they're going to be doing Dark Multiverse versions of Nightfall, The Death of Superman, and several others, major stories, but these are one-shots. But they're going to be like double-sized, like $6 books. So, the DC and Marvel have all sorts of crazy stuff that they have coming up. Marvel has
that whole dark metal, that whole line was absolutely nuts.
Yes, and I just finished the Batman Who Laughs, that 7-issue miniseries, led into the current ongoing series that just came out a week or two ago, Batman Superman. All I have to say is the Shazam Who Laughs. That, my God, that is awesome.
I'll have to check that out. I saw that it was on my feed for that because Variant was going to do that, and I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for that one yet.
Yeah, I'm still working on Leviathan. That I'm reading that as it comes out. We still have no idea who it is. I have a few suspicions. Yeah, theories. Yeah. Maybe we could go into that maybe next time.
Okay.
But yeah, I just randomly picked up a Punisher story that's going on right now because Moonknight showed up in it. And it's actually pretty good.
Oh yeah, now we see.
Figures.
Yeah, now we know why.
Yeah, so just Marvel and DC both have a lot of great stuff coming up. Marvel has a Doctor Doom series done by one of an artist that I really like, Salvatore LaRocca. That's coming up. I'm like, okay, I just take my paycheck, you know. I'm following all the Justice Leagues, all 3 titles, because of all the stuff going on with the Source Wall and all like that. There's Superman I'm following because Bendis is actually doing an amazing job. I know a lot of people are polarized on how he writes. I'm enjoying it. I think he's doing a great job with the character and tweaking the Superman mythos, making it new and fresh.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's one thing you got to do with characters overall.
Especially when a character who's been around as long as Superman has.
Yeah, as long as he's been around and all the powers he has, you got to tweak it sometimes.
Yeah. And he's been very, very... I remember one of the tweaks I remember from years ago was that storyline where he landed and walked across America. Essentially, just walk. Just walked across America just to be with the people. That whole maybe there's elements I'm missing, but just hearing that in passing was like, what?
Sounds like a suit of road trip, except for on foot.
Yep.
So, all right.
Yeah, and Tom King is doing his City of Bane story, which it's only a few issues in. I missed the last one because it sold out.
Ooh.
Batman 77. And, from what I understand, there's a major reason why that one sold out. I'm not going to give any spoilers for anything that's current, so...
Oh, yeah.
That's good.
That's fine.
But, yeah.
That works.
Yeah.
Let's hope it comes to reboot
what
soon.
I have read is good. So,
nice.
I think both companies are bringing their A game over the last few months, or last year, I should say.
All right, so some other stuff. I guess another major thing, and since this is actually as close to relevant as we can get, today being September 10th, was the Apple Fall Conference.
Some big news happened.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is kind of those things. Every year Apple does a conference in the spring and a conference in the fall. The one in the fall announces the new iPhone. I know. I'm the only one in the room who has an iPhone. I get it.
I'm not a hater. I'm not a hater.
I'm not a hater. I'm kind of apathetic to it.
Yeah.
It's like,
well,
here's a new phone. That's cool.
It's interesting because it's like you see these things and then it's like and then what stuff are they coming out with? What's gonna try and drive them? Because Apple has had some struggles with their market share and whatnot.
Well, yeah, in recent years, just because now instead of being the real big innovators, they're chasing a lot of companies now.
Yeah, the tone from that is they're focusing on the customer experience. It's more about everything they hammered on it a few times. This is all about how the customer uses the device.
They have a really good network within their devices. They keep everything connected because of how strong their OS is.
Yeah. So I'll just kind of run through these because because some of these would be interesting for us as far as reviews and games. They started off, the first thing was they announced Apple Arcade, which is going to be a subscription-based service for accessing games on the Apple platforms. It's going to similar to Microsoft's Game Pass, PlayStation Plus, where you get access to games or whatever. This is
or is it more like PlayStation Now?
PlayStation Now. That's right.
Yeah,
PlayStation Now. You pay a price, you can play games.
Is it limited to certain platforms?
No, this is going to be across this is going to be a new thing in the App Store, and it'll cover all the platforms. At least they didn't specify that it wouldn't cover Mac OS.
Okay.
But guaranteed their biggest sellers happen to be the mobile platforms,
which is pretty much standard TV nowadays.
So, but it'd be subscription. You can download, check out games, indie titles. A couple of major players were there. Konami had a major title. Capcom had a major title.
What title? Do you remember what the titles were?
Capcom's was an underwater adventure. It was was actually really good because when they showed gameplay of it, and it's like the world above is cold, so you have to explore the ocean floor, and you've got your submersible and a umbilical cable, and you're in a deep dive suit. Like one of those classic big deep dive helmets, and you have this little rover that helps you. But the cool thing from what they showed in the gameplay is all of the entire soundtrack is underwater. Because like you play some games where you have the underwater elements, you hear the soundtrack and it's like as if you're in a regular room. This one, every sound sounds like it's underwater.
Well, that's good
So
immersion.
that'll be a really nice immersion. It's kind of a platformer thing. I'm curious, but the thing that got me really excited, being an Apple household, is their subscription service is going to be $4.99 for the entire family.
That's a good thing.
So I pay one price, and I get to check out, and everyone who's quote unquote part of my family circle will have access to play this. So that seemed really cool to me. And that's how they started it.
Okay.
Are we considered family?
Close enough. You're at the clubhouse enough, but you don't have an Apple device.
Add into the family.
So,
plus one.
Another thing, the next thing they talked about was they have a new iPad.
Okay.
They refreshed the iPad line. Their most popular iPad, or some of the stats they were touting, was 60% of new users get the 9.7-inch iPad, which is kind of like their starter iPad. I use minis, which are a little bit smaller, but they decided to up the size to 10.7.
That's good.
And they're using the same screen layout and design as they do for the new MacBook refresh.
Keep it simple across the platforms.
So, and they added Apple Pencil support, the keyboard support, all that's coming in. They decided to finally. We talked about this a while back during the WWDC conferences, they split the operating system from the iOS that was used for the phones and made a new operating system specific to iPad.
Which definitely makes sense because it's a different
capitalizes
device.
On the fact the iPad is more touchscreen, is a larger screen to work off of. So trying to, again, to work on innovating with educators and whatnot. They even have a price point for for an education model, which is about $100 cheaper than standard. But that was really cool. A new watch update.
Okay.
The new watch will have. So around it now, it's like with the current watch, if I dip my hand down or start looking at it, the screen shuts off.
Yeah.
Well, the new one, they turn off that feature. They also actually add a compass.
Okay.
Yeah, this is one of the things, like me being on the airsoft field, I want to know where my directions are.
You want to know where you're going.
I can't really, there's no real compass app. But another thing is they're using the watch to partner with a lot of medical research so that wearers of the watch, data can be collected. Like they have, like for EKG, they have an EKG built into the watch where it checks your heartbeat.
Okay.
Well, if you sign up with the research stuff, your EKG readings and all of that it can be sent to those researchers to look at. And then they touted some stories of people who had irregular heart issues, and it was an alert on the watch, and it prevented them from having heart attacks and having one lady was pregnant. She started to have early signs of like AFib, and because her heart rate was escalating, the baby's heart rate was diminishing.
Yeah.
So, but because the watch gave her an alert, she was able to get to the doctor in the hospital fast enough to save the infant. Now the infant was born early, but is doing fine. And then some other people who had to avoid that. So, and some of their new stuff they're going to research with is they're going to add a decibel reader. So as you go throughout your day to hear what the ambient sound is, and they're partnering with the University of Michigan for this one, because it's important to me because I have some hearing issues from my childhood. But going to use this to kind of see how what the daily decibel level is on your day-to-day life. How could it potentially affect your hearing long term? There's some other stuff for women's health and things like that.
Incorporating health into the watch is a very good thing, especially if you have it on you 24/7 for most users.
Some of the newer ones, they're adding an SOS feature. They're adding a fall notification feature. But they're going to release an app in November. It's called Apple Research.
Okay.
And it'll allow you to go in and set up, what research am I willing to let you collect and share out? And the thing is, it's completely encrypted end to end. There is no way to associate this data with this person specifically. It's all meant to protect privacy, because that again is another thing calling back from WWDC, where it's like they're really focusing on that protection of privacy.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool. I have a Watch 4. I'm not in any hurry to get a Watch 5.
There are probably some out there that will.
Yeah. Well, the only reason I upgraded is because I broke mine.
Yeah.
So
that's usually what happens.
Yeah.
Phone slows down or cracks.
I had one of
a new one.
I had one of the launch watches. The launch one, so it lasted several years. So I'm good with that. They talked about Apple TV Plus and how that service is going to have a lot of original content to try. One of the ones that really caught me was a show called C. They did the worldwide premiere for it. It's starring Jason Momoa.
Okay.
Who's always awesome.
Yes. And the big thing with this is, here's the premise. It is centuries into the future.
Okay.
Humans have lost the ability to see.
Blindness.
So they go through the world blind. However, these twin babies are born with the ability to see.
Oh, interesting.
Now the nice thing is, from what Tim Cook was saying from that, is they consulted with a lot of people who are sightless, blind, visually impaired, to help bring some authenticity to the performances. And given, it really struck me because given some of the work Jason Momoa has done with like Frontier and Aquaman and even some of his grittier stuff, to have that same kind of Frontier type character, only in a more primeval environment and blind.
Okay, so he's one of the blind people.
He's one of the elders. He's blind.
Okay.
His kids can see.
Okay. All right.
And people are panicking because they say sight ruined the world. So they were cursed, so to speak, with the ability to not see and to kind of reconnect with their roots. It's very tribal, nomadic type of thing. They say it's set in the future, but you really could feel that given their attire and the weaponry, that this would be like a 10,000 BC type of era.
Interesting.
So they'll play on some kind of reason why certain
That's
things
going
happen.
to premiere in April. Or not April, but in November. A couple of other shows like there's... Yeah.
Oh, no, I was going to say, when you first said that the show was called Sea and it takes place in the future, I was afraid the next thing you were going to say is like the ice caps have melted and all that you see is this giant sea.
No,
and I'm gonna be like,
no. This is
not
not
another water.
Yes, no. This was actually... I check out the premiere. They probably have it up there. It is really evocative, and I'm really curious about it. Because I think a lot of the streaming services are touching on things in TV that the networks could never touch.
Oh, yeah.
And because HBO laid the groundwork for this, hands down. So you have a lot of these shows. They have another one. One of their most highly rated premieres is going to be the Daily. It's going to be kind of like the morning show. It has Steve Carell, Jennifer Aniston, and Reese Witherspoon. And this will be the first TV series that Jennifer Aniston has done since Friends.
Oh.
And it's been getting rave ratings. It's one of the most watched premiere teasers and most anticipated shows for the fall. But the Apple TV Plus subscription service will give you access to these TVs and movies and other things, a lot like all the other streaming services. Again, $4.99 a month for the family. While Disney Plus is going to have a great price point coming out the gate at $6.99. Yeah. Apple TV is going to have a good one too, but I think it's just Disney's library is going to beat that.
When it comes to Apple is booking on their original content like Netflix and Hulu have, but Netflix and Hulu are at a different tier of price. So they've been in the game longer, so they're doing it in a whole different way. And now Apple is coming out with this new streaming service, but they're coming at the same time, like you said, with Disney Plus. But Disney Plus is coming out swinging because of their properties.
Yeah.
So they really are trying to capitalize on big names and original content with some backing, like big names like J.J. Abrams, Taika Waititi, and Steven Spielberg, among others. That so they're hoping that big names and original creative content can really rule the day.
Yeah.
Which it has, because you see it happen in Netflix and Hulu.
Yeah, I think some of those shows, like especially the space one, For All Mankind, where it's supposed to be have you heard about this one, For All Mankind? No. This is another one of those Apple TV originals. It is take the space race, right? Everybody knows the space race. America getting to the moon first. What if Russia got there first?
Interesting. So it's an alternate history.
Yep. That's the whole premise.
All right.
So what if?
Exactly. I think that'll be that one seemed kind of interesting, but not nearly as interesting as some of the other stuff.
Tales from the Dark Multiverse.
Yeah, and also here...
something like that. In fact, even the cover art's got the spacesuit looking at the flag on the moon, but it's red. So, looking ahead, any movies on the docket for this weekend?
Well, this weekend there's two interesting movies coming out. There's the two films that I'm going to be either seeing both or one or the other. We did mention from that list we did last week, Hustlers, which is the J-Lo stripper movie, which is getting a lot of good buzz because they say it's like a gangster flick but with strippers. And it's based on a true story, so it does a good they said a good genre combination. The other one is the Goldfinch, which is a low key drama. So I might be able to see both or just one or the other. We'll just see what happens.
Cool. Anything to look forward to on your week other than some of those comic book titles you told us about?
That's about it. I mean, House of X, Powers of X is the one that I'm just I'm
not at the bit to get your hands on.
Yeah, that everything else has kind of become secondary to me. That's the good stuff right there.
Keep us updated.
Yep. For me, I've got an airsoft event on Saturday, doing a spoof of the Area 51 thing.
You mentioned that a few times.
So that should be fun.
That'll be definitely fun.
Both my kids want to participate in that.
Yeah.
And another D&D game on Sunday with a crew that meets once a month, and they're supposed to be going into a city to do resupply. So I've got to think of some ways to make that short, sweet, and entertaining. So
we'll make it happen.
All right. Well, I guess with that, gentlemen, and everyone listening, y'all have a wonderful week. Thank you. Leave us a review, and we'll catch you later.
I love you all. Queen Angelica.
Rock and roll.
Peace.